What's up? Welcome back, everybody. So we have Jennifer Manzo on the podcast. She is doing quite a lot of things within the HVAC world. She's got her own free tech support line through the HVAC Chicks Coalition. She has her own podcast, the Misfits of HVAC podcast, and she's just going to talk about a bunch of training that she does with SkillCat as well. So one thing that I want to bring to your attention is that this is afterwards. This is after the podcast was recorded. Myself and Jennifer kind of created this partnership where the HVAC Know-It-All app that is now free for everybody. If you get on there, you got a problem out in the field, get onto the app, write your question in the app, and hopefully someone will get back to you. Okay. And you can save that post as well, so you can reference it later. And then what you can do is you can call Jen's line because there's 24/7 tech support. So we can tackle this from both places. The HVAC Know-It-All app first, you'll get written responses and you can save that, and then call the line. Jen's going to give you the number on this podcast. So you have to pay attention in the first part, and then we'll get to the second part of the podcast in a few days. So this is the HVAC Know-It-All podcast. I'm your host, Gary McCreadie. This podcast is sponsored by Cool Air Products, Master, Cintas, and SupplyHouse.com. Go to the show notes and click on the links to check these guys out. All right, Jen. So, let's start off by thanking you, first of all, because you contributed an article to HVAC Know-It-All recently, and that was on invasive testing, something that seems to be trending upwards in the world of HVAC. So we can talk about that. We can talk about some other things too. And I noticed you got a SkillCat banner behind you. You said you do some training for them, which I thought was pretty cool. So let's talk about some of the training that you do for other companies. You go to site and actually train other technicians, but you also go on service calls and whatnot as well, right? So you got like a bunch of hats in the ring, so to speak, when it comes to this trade, right? Let's go through them one by one, because you've been on social media now for how long? Because I noticed when you first came on the scene, and then you just started to kind of grow and elevate your game. Every time I looked, you were doing something different. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. I've only been on for, I think 4 years is coming up on 4 years. So yeah, not a long time.
What are you doing right now as far as going out and training other techs?
So I hit it from 3 separate directions as far as training goes. So I do train for SkillCat. I'm their chief trainer. For SkillCat, what I do is train whole companies. So all technical training. And I do a little bit of business coaching too, because I do own my own business for newer companies. But when it comes to established companies, we have a lot of big ones. And so like fleet companies. So I'm training like 90 techs for a company in New York right now.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. We have like this comprehensive training plan that you pay extra for me, basically. So SkillCat is an online platform, which has its own training plans and EPA that you could go through and whatever. But when a company signs up, they need a little bit of extra coaching so that all their guys kind of go through together and don't just get on winging. So the company then gets me, and what we do is weekly or bi-weekly company training. So I train class by class, different, skill levels and different cohorts. And then I assign them homework on SkillCat that goes along with the training we did together. And then on top of that, throughout the whole time we're together, they have a WhatsApp group where they can contact me any time of day, 24/7, any technician that works for that company. And then on top of that, I own a free tech support line, so they get access to that as well. That's what I do for SkillCat.
The training you do for SkillCat in person, or is it via online?
So for SkillCat, it's virtual.
It's virtual. Okay. Yeah. So what types of things are you teaching? Is it like grassroots stuff you're teaching them?
So it depends on the class. I teach all the way from day 1 apprentice to year 40 in the field. So I do a lot of fundamentals, as you can imagine. One thing that experienced technicians often are lacking on is the fundamentals of the refrigeration cycle and how electricity works and things like that. So my advanced technicians start at the beginning and they work their way to where they're actually at in the field. And then my apprentices do the exact same thing. They just do it at a slower pace, I would say.
I think it's cool you take the experienced technician and go through all the fundamentals again, because a lot of what I was taught was you just do it this way just because that's just the way you do it. That's just how it's done. And I'm like, but why? Because this is just the way we do it. Now shut up and listen to me. Right. So, and those technicians got trained that way. So they understood put this here, put that there, this goes here, all that, but they didn't understand necessarily why they were doing those things.
Yeah, so I
Okay.
think that the advanced technicians, what they lost out on was the why. They can use their hands and they can hook up the gauges and they can, test electricity. What they don't understand is why. What are free electrons doing when we need to test electricity? What is resistance? What is happening within the both coils, the equal and opposite reaction to thermodynamics? They don't, that's the stuff that they lost out on. And like you said, Gary, it's because they were taught by someone who was taught by someone who was taught by someone. We just do it. I actually had a guy today that reached out to me and said, look, I'm out of the field now and I've been watching you for a long time and I was taught wrong. And I'm here to tell you that I was taught wrong by someone who was taught wrong. And now I'm teaching my son and I don't want to teach him wrong. So he reached out to get training for his son. That happens all the time. A lot of the time, it's no longer the old heads not wanting to share knowledge or gain knowledge. It's that they don't know what to do. They're just kind of here. And so getting them involved in training in a way that nobody's asking them what they don't know is huge. So I just start them all where I know they need to start. I know they don't understand what superheat is. I know they don't understand why we go by vapor saturation and not the ambient temperature or beer can cold. So that's the important thing for me.
So I find it interesting that an older person reached out to you and said that they were taught wrong and admitted it, but they reached out to you directly and said that, because
Yeah.
you'll never ever see it. Well, I shouldn't say never, but it's very rare you'll see, like on Facebook or something, going through the comments that somebody goes, you know what, I was taught wrong and I admit it, right?
Yeah.
You never see that person admitting the fact that they've been doing it wrong for so many years. You just
No.
see them forcing their way through and still saying that their way is right and your way is wrong. So
Yeah.
that's commendable on that person.
Yeah. 100%.
I have to ask you this, because it's not often that you walk into a classroom or get trained by a female, like a bunch of men sitting there going, okay, this female is. So how does that work for you? Is there any issues where they're like, yeah, I know more than you, or any disrespect, or like if there's any stories of negativity, if you want to tell them, you can, but I'm sure the positive outweighs the negative. I just wanted to know what kind of feedback you're getting from the dominant males in the trade when you're trying to train them.
Absolutely. And it's something we don't talk about enough. And I think that's why we're stuck at a 2%, female to male ratio, is
Yeah.
because we don't talk about these things. We act like, we see a woman and we treat her like a man, and that's not the way it is. So yeah, I've had my share of pushback. I think for me, the way I started out worked. And so I infiltrated Facebook groups and I, talked to a lot of technicians because I wanted to learn and I wasn't getting the training I needed at work at the time. So I was just trying to get somebody that would take a chance on me. And I thought, maybe one guy, maybe that's all it takes. And instead, I got dogged a lot and I dogged right back. And because I dogged right back, I ended up getting respect from that. So now, like, I admin the biggest Facebook HVAC group there is, HVAC for Life. I'm an admin of the worst group on Facebook because I can keep them in line because they listen to me for some reason. Nobody knows why. I took that and I kind of just ran with it confidence-wise. And I was like, if I can get 67,000 men to listen to me, then I can do it anywhere. And honestly, I think the last time I had any real pushback that I could even remember was years ago. Like, I walk into a room and men have seen me on social media. I've proved my worth, right? I've proved that I know what I'm talking about and that I'm not going to talk about it if I don't. And because of that, people that ask me for help get real help. And then the system works after they asked me for help. So they don't have to push back against me again. They know that in that situation, I knew more about that thing, but that there's a whole bunch they can teach me as well. So I think it's just a relationship. It's a push-pull relationship. But also, women tend to not walk into a room like that with any amount of confidence. And I completely understand why. But you really have to just completely throw that out of your head. Like, I'm teaching on the two biggest stages in HVAC this year. I'm teaching at Symposium. I'm teaching at Excellence. There's a lot that can come of just doing it one time and knowing you can do it after that.
Yeah, that's really awesome. That's where I recall seeing you at first, is infiltrating all the Facebook groups. I have my own Facebook group. It's called HVAC Hub. I've rarely been in there just because these groups turn into like shit on fire. Yeah, it's like a bag of shit on fire and it's just constantly flaming, right? And I didn't see any value being in there, even though I'm the admin and there's other people that help accept people and all that kind of stuff. And at one point, the group of us were really tight. We talk all the time, like, how do we make this group better? But at the end of the day, there's no making these Facebook groups better. They are what they are, and you just have to accept They are what they are. And they're all going to shit on each other. Like, it's just, that's the way it is. And if you go into these things with a mentality where you want to be serious and take the trade serious into these groups, you're going to get shit on. And you just got to realize this is all guys getting on there and venting and poking fun and taking an English phrase, taking the piss. And the quicker you realize that, the less offended you'll be getting into these groups and stuff like that, right? So
I have managed actually with one group to do the opposite. And I don't know what the difference is yet, so I can't speak on it. But the HVAC Coalition group has 1,000 members, and it's all educators, students, and people who want to help. And it's insane. So I own HVAC Coalition, obviously. We have free training. We have the free tech support line. We have a free tool account where everybody donates. Everybody in the group donates money to buy technicians' tools if they need them. We have resource location for women. We have single parent resources. I mean, we have, you name it, we have it. And we do everything we do for free. Nothing costs a dime to anybody. And because of that, what happened was the first group of people that joined were here for that reason. And then the next group that joined didn't want to be the guy that started shit, you know? And it just kept going until now we have 1,000 members. I've never had to remove a post. I've never had to moderate anything. Everyone's just kind, loving, helpful. And I don't know the difference because then I have this other group. It's just not that.
I can tell you the difference. One group has 60 some odd thousand. The other one only has 1,000, right? It was the same way with my Facebook page got hacked. It had 185,000 followers, and now I don't have it anymore. That's my page. So I don't know who stole it, why they stole it, but they don't have control over it anymore. It's just floating in the abyss. And Facebook is zero help. Absolutely zero help. I've opened up
100%.
7 cases. It's just floating in the abyss. My page was a lot more tamer than like the group that I had, because the content was all tailored through me, and it wasn't like some rando making like a shit post just because they felt like it. It was all tailored and curated through me, and it was meant to educate and entertain and create discussion. So I think that's the difference. Whoever's in the groups or the pages, it's in order to get respect from the people there, the posts have to be a certain sort of content. Like that one guy in the HVAC for Life, he keeps making the troll posts. That one guy, they're funny, but you're not going to get people.
That one guy is an admin.
Oh, he's an admin? It's funny, but he's not going to garner like respectful responses and stuff like that. He's shit posting, so he's going to get shit on, right? That's just the way it works. But anyway.
Unfortunately, then so does everybody else.
Yeah. But let's talk about, first of all, how in the world do you have time to run your own company, run this, train for SkillCat, and you also have the podcast now that you do, right? Let's talk about the coalition, because it's free tech support. How in the world do you do this? Like, who's involved? Like, how many people, how many calls do you get? Like, tell me about it.
Everything with this coalition started off as just me because I refused to charge for it, and I refused to ask anybody to work for free other than myself, right? So I started it for women because I was alone and I wanted other women. And so it worked for a while. And then I realized the need was there for men just as much as women. There is no difference in the needs of an HVAC technician, period, based on gender. So I just had to tailor it a little bit differently. And once I let men in, I realized that men wanted to help and didn't have anywhere to do that. Though it's called the HVAC Coalition, we still have only 2% women within our coalition because that's the ratio for HVAC, right? So it's going to be the same in a group. So what ended up happening was this beautiful blooming of how can I help? How can I help? How can I help? And so we ended up with 5 technicians on the tech support line, which is 24/7, literally. It never, ever, ever stops ringing. And we split up our days. So like I still have 3 days a week, but we have my co-host from Misfits of HVAC, Ryan is one of our guys. And then we have Jimmy Hesbach from TikTok, the HVAC teacher. He's one of our guys. The HVAC grammarian, Mr. Matty Showers. He takes a day.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, he's on Mondays.
Oh, I'm gonna have to go talk to him about this.
Yeah,
he
does a really great job. We're
awesome.
So grateful to have him. And then we have my husband, Val, does swing shift. So he'll cover for anybody that, if I have a meeting or Jimmy has school or whatever. And then all of us are technicians, obviously. And every single one of us, we don't have like a database like you would have if you worked at, Train or Carrier.
Yeah.
We just answer the phone. What's wrong with it? And we walk through it until it's over. And because we do not quit, we have 100% diagnosis rate. So it's pretty insane over 4 years, in fact.
Wow. Okay,
It's
so
crazy.
are all of those people volunteering their time?
Yes.
Yes. Interesting. So Matt, grammarian, he's always poking fun at me about my grammar and spelling and on Instagram, but I knew he was a good guy underneath all of that. I knew he was a good guy. These people, did you go to them or did they come to you?
It came to me. I ran this alone for the first 2 years. So I would literally answer the calls at 7 in the morning and 2 in the morning and full in the afternoon. I mean, it was all me all the time, but it was also very small. We didn't get the volume of calls we get now. And so now it's grown to a point. So we just started out using Google Voice, like we need a number and that's the best we could do. And so SkillCat, actually, they support everything that I do with the coalition 100%. They actually automated our monthly trainings. I mean, they've done everything they could to help. So what they've done now is they've got us on an open phone line. So we're going to have the same number, but it'll be a lot more organized for those of us running it. So it'll be good. They're going to pay for it for us so that we don't have to. So pretty great.
Okay, so do you want to shout out the number?
Yeah, I do. It's 856-390-4055.
If I were to call it right now, is there like press 1, press 2, or someone just answers the phone?
Nope, just answer the phone.
Who's on today?
Jimmy Husbach's on today.
Jimmy, okay. When Matt, tell me next time Matt's on, because I'm going to prank him.
He's on every Monday from 7 to 4.
Every Monday from 7 to 4 during the day. How's he doing his job?
He does it while he's at work. He actually he was like, I want to do this, but I'm not giving up any family time. And I was like, I'm with it, man. I'll cover you at 4. Let's do it.
I should prank him and I should record it.
Oh, people prank up all the time. Oh my God. Brett Wetzel's the worst.
Oh, is he?
He'll call in like a Southern accent and completely get me. And I'll be like, I'll be like, are you a technician? And then he just dies laughing. He can't handle it.
Jokes aside, that is very cool. And have you guys, 100% success rate. Do you know how many actual calls that is? Have you counted that?
No, I do. I don't have it in front of me right now, but we started out at averaging 18 calls a day. And that was, we did our first analytics in the second year. And then now in the fourth year, we just had our analytics done again, and we're averaging 40 calls a day. So it's pretty awesome.
Interesting. And
that's not every day. It's just the average, but
what happens if it's something that the person that answers the phone is not their expertise? Like what happens if it's like a niche sort of problem? How do you guys handle that?
So we have a guy for that too.
I'm
our hydronics expert. Jimmy is an expert when it comes to fundamentals and teaching. He teaches at a trade school. And then Maddie has his expertise. Ryan has his in commercial, and Val has like 7 expertise because he's like the best technician I've ever met. But then we also have people on standby. So we have like Matt Waxer. If we get an Aeon unit, I'm not troubleshooting an Aeon unit because I want to keep my 100% success rate. So I'm going to call Maddie and say, hey, can you take this call for me? And he does. And then we have a carrier expert. We have Dirk Nauman from HVAC Simulator who takes all of our carrier calls if it's something that is niche with a carrier. But yeah, we just have systems in place.
I didn't know any of this. And I know Matt Waxer very well too. Yep. So I didn't know
Matt's
he was
one of our
part
sponsors of HVAC Coalition. He does. We actually just started a series with him. It's called Diagnose with the Doc.
Oh, wow. I'm so like in my own world that I don't get to. Yeah, it was the news for HVAC. They were doing a piece on podcasters. They interviewed me, and one of the questions was, "Who is your favorite HVAC podcast?" And I stopped, and I'm like, "That's a good question because I don't listen to any of them. You know why? Because I am so busy with my own life and my kids and my 2 businesses and." Coaching soccer and all of this that I don't get to explore the trade really outside of my own world of HVAC know-it-all. And that world is pretty big because I read a lot of comments. I talk to a lot of technicians. But stuff like with Matt Waxer and Grammarian getting on board with you, I didn't know that. And those are both great people to have on board with what you're doing.
100%. So, and we couldn't do it without them either. And that's the thing. Like, I've never reached out to anybody asked to help with this coalition because it is free and it's actual free. I mean, we don't make $1, we don't spend $1. Like it's like that. And then we end up getting people like Bill Spohn, Ty Brannaman, and ESCO and all these different places that come to me and they're like, hey, I want to be a sponsor. What do I have to do? Craig Migliaccio is one of our sponsors. He provides all my training materials for my virtual trainings. It's just amazing. I don't know what happened, but they all just decided they want to be on board. So we actually have like the biggest there's always like ESCO and then there's SkillCat and then there's, all these different types of training platforms. HVAC School is one of our biggest sponsors. Brian took us on a couple of years ago, and now Brian, HVAC School, and SkillCat have a partnership that I started for them. So they have a nonprofit now and a whole bunch of stuff. So it's like all these things are happening within the whole industry, bringing it all into one place because of our coalition. It's pretty awesome.
I hate the word influencer, but that's kind of the way I started. I seen this gap. And you probably seen it as well. And there was one dominant HVAC group or page back in the day, 8, 9, 10 years ago. I think we all know what it was, right? That group was about shitty installs and shitting on each other. And you know what I mean? Getting real hard nose with each other. And there was no level up. There was no education. And I seen an opportunity to start something where I want to share what I do and the things that I come across and solutions and positivity and all that kind of stuff. So that's why I started the whole HVAC Know-It-All brand. It was just like a little daily blog of my day, and hopefully someone read it. Hopefully it could help someone. And it started to. There was a lot of pushback on the name that I chose. Sometimes, I could tell you a lot of stories, Jen. There was a lot of pushback on the name that I chose. I saw this opportunity to start something. I've always liked writing. Like in grade 2, my teacher said I should be a writer because I used to love stories. In high school, I loved photography. I loved videography. I loved all that kind of stuff. So I'm like, I know HVAC to a certain extent. I found out how much I didn't know when I started HVAC Know-It-All, how much I didn't know. I thought I knew the trade. And then I start this mini blog thing and people are like, no, you're doing that wrong. No, that's not. And I'm like, holy shit. Right. So I got humbled and I learned a lot of stuff. But the whole reason was to have something for me that I felt like I was giving back and inject some positivity.
You probably don't know that. And I know you don't know this because how would you? So when I started in the trade, I had the worst boss ever. And then when I say the worst boss ever, think about the worst boss you've ever had. And then like times it by 10. He was the worst boss ever. He never should have hired a woman. That's for sure. But he wasn't willing to teach me either. For sure. He didn't know what to teach me. He didn't know what he was doing. So I had to look for how do I learn now that I can't learn at work. And the first thing I found was HVAC Know-It-All. And HVAC Know-It-All taught me the right way. And then after I became an, I would say, experienced technician, I said, how do I do that? How do I give back? And in the same way. And HVAC Know-It-All was the catalyst for all of that. Because if I hadn't found it, I wouldn't known that was a thing. I thought everybody was just out here gatekeeping,
I appreciate that and letting me know. Was there any specific thing that you seen that attracted you to the brand? Like what was it? Do you know?
Yeah, actually. So I was doing a lot. Obviously, HVAC School is the first thing that pops up when you look for online HVAC training, period. That's the first thing you find. And in one of the HVAC School forums, somebody was talking, and I'm talking 5 years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, somebody was talking about HVAC Know-It-All being an awesome resource. And I went over there, and the way that your page was laid out at the time, I was super confused. Just because I didn't know anything about HVAC, so I didn't know what to start with, like where to look. And then when I found the Facebook group, I asked somebody in the Facebook group, I'm like, can you tell me where I should start? Like, I'm so new, I don't know what I'm doing. I think it was Airflow, I'm assuming was like the thing, and he sent me your website. And then I was like, okay, now I get it. So I went to the website and there was just all this stuff that I was like, oh my God, I can just read this and learn it. This is awesome. But yeah, I was just having it in print instead of videos. Like we all know this YouTube University out there, right? But I just don't follow well with that. I'm a writer and a reader. And so having it there in blog format was everything for me. That was just everything.